Ready to start? 1 minute away. All right. Everybody good?
12 o'clock, ready to rock.
Good morning. Proposition 36 is about common sense, not nonsense. It's about public safety, not politics or partisanship. Approximately a month ago, California voters overwhelmingly approved Proposition 36 by nearly 70%. Proposition 36 goes into effect on December 18, 2024. We will be measured and fair, but make no mistake about it, we will hold people accountable under Proposition 36. Because now we have more. We have more tools as prosecutors to hold retail thieves accountable. We have more tools to get addicts off the streets, and we have more tools to stem the tide of fentanyl fatalities by going after the peddlers of poison. Over the last 2 years, California businesses have lost over $15 billion to retail theft, equating to a theft tax of almost $300 per person. So when we see the price of eggs and milk go up and everything in between, it is no surprise. When we see a trip to the store take 2 hours longer than it should because the open shelves have now become the locked up shelves. But now we have more tools to go after retail thieves. Under Proposition 36, if you have 2 prior convictions for theft, the third can be charged as a felony. We can now combine and aggregate multiple cases together to charge a felony. When arrested, you will be taken to jail. Now, I want to make a distinction between somebody stealing a ham sandwich for personal sustenance versus someone stealing 20 filet mignons. The difference between the two deals with accountability. Last year, our organized retail theft unit at the Sacramento DA's office charged over 156 cases of organized retail theft, going after the retail theft rings. But now, we have more. We have more tools where we aren't just limited by going after these rings, but by going after the individual thieves who are stealing again and again. In addition to that, we aren't just protecting the big box retailers on Wall Street, but we are protecting the small businesses on Main Street. But now we have more. We have more tools to be able to go after the fentanyl dealers and the peddlers of poison. Last year in Sacramento County, we had over 400 people die from fentanyl poisoning. 400 people. That's more than all the gun-related homicides we've had in Sacramento County in the last 10 years. And so with that, the Sacramento DA's office, we started the SAC Force team. This is a specialized group of both investigators and prosecutors with multi-agencies, both on the federal and state and local level, where we go after the dealers of fentanyl poisoning. Prior to taking office, the Sacramento DA's office had not charged a single person for murder for selling fentanyl that resulted in someone's death. Since then, we have charged 8 different people, and we have 6 cases pending. In fact, recently, the Sheriff's Department, through the actions of one of their detectives, along with our SAC Force team, were able to solve and bring to justice a person who sold fentanyl and killed someone. We are here today. In large part, thank you to the How About Arden management. We are here at How About Arden, where we see a lot of the businesses around our business that have been affected by retail theft. And I want to thank the How About Arden management for bringing us here today. Because one of the things that we've actually done here is we have worked with them to create a top 10 offender list. And as a result of that, and in partnership with the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Jim Cooper, we were able to identify somebody that was repeatedly stealing from stores here for several years. And now they are doing several years in prison. Now, I want to share with you because we have more tools now. You'll see these stickers and these business cards with a QR code. This would take you to a landing page on the DA's website where retailers can report theft online with a link to the appropriate agency and a checklist of things that they need to put in the report. Also on this website, You also have webinars and a PowerPoint presentation explaining the differences between Proposition 36 and the new legislative bills that were recently passed. We also, on this website, have the ability for retailers to order these stickers that they can place in their businesses that warn thieves that this business is under the protection of law enforcement. Proposition 36 is not about going right or going left. It's about moving forward so that we can do more, so that we can have more tools to make sure that we all feel safe. Safe where we raise our families, safe where we buy our groceries, safe where we buy our Christmas presents, safe where our children go to schools, safe on our streets and in our parks. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Supervisor Rich Desmond, who covers this particular area, to speak with you about our endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, District Attorney Ho, and thank all of you for being out here today to have this important discussion, really celebrate what District Attorney Ho has described as more tools for us in our local communities, more tools for us to combat rampant retail theft and rampant open drug use in our residential areas, in front of our local businesses. And I especially want to thank the property and business improvement districts who are represented here today. We have several of them in Sacramento County, and these PBIDs are really on the front lines of seeing the impact of retail theft with our small businesses. And they do amazing work. And this is going to be an additional tool that we can bring to bear to help them and to help the businesses that they represent. And as the county supervisor that represents almost half of the unincorporated Sacramento County population, I work with a lot of small businesses in the community. I see the impact that retail theft and open drug use has on them and has on our residents in the community. You know, something that when Prop 36 passed, it came along with a promise. It came along with a promise from elected officials who support it, both non-law enforcement and law enforcement leaders as well. Is that number one, we promise that we are going to use this new tool to go after people that are harming our small businesses, people that are harming our communities. But the other part of that promise is, as District Attorney Tin alluded to, someone who is maybe stealing a ham sandwich because they have a need because they're hungry, or someone who is fighting mental illness and addiction. The promise is that we are going to use the tools of Prop 36 to get someone into treatment. For a lot of people, the Prop 36 intervention that we will now have at our disposal is the only way we're going to get some of these people into the treatment they need. You know, as a county supervisor, a lot of my time is spent bringing on additional resources for people experiencing mental illness, experiencing addiction. But the frustration, the challenge that local elected officials, counties have throughout this state is that we make these resources available and a lot of people don't take advantage of it. The reason they don't take advantage of it is because of the addiction and the mental illness that they are enslaved to. And this will provide us an invaluable intervention for these people to get them the help they need. And I don't think we talk nearly enough about this in the context of this discussion with Prop 36. So what it does is we're going to keep that promise to small businesses and members of our community, but we're also going to keep that promise that for people who need help, we're going to get them the help. We're not going to criminalize addiction. We are going to use this as an opportunity to help people. The other thing I want to do is thank the people of the state of California for overwhelmingly passing Prop 36 by nearly 70% of the vote. And people saw through, I think, some of the smokescreen, some of the mischaracterization, misinformation about what this really is. This is a common sense approach to addressing these challenges that are affecting us, all of us, in our communities and where we live and in front of our schools. So I have the distinct privilege also in Sacramento County of working with two tremendous law enforcement leaders, and our District Attorney Tin Ho and our Sheriff Jim Cooper, and I really have the distinct opportunity of getting to be in between these two bookends of these law enforcement leaders. So now it's my privilege to introduce my friend, Sheriff Jim Cooper.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. This is really a pivotal moment. Voters made their voices heard and approved Prop 36. Prop 36 sends a clear message that Californians are committed to undoing the damage caused by Prop 47. Prop 36 will ensure those who commit crimes do not get a slap on the wrist, but face real penalties. And that's really the big issue. We've done many operations over the past year, arrested over 1,000 people. Only 12 were homeless. Very few took food. A lot of folks are taking it because the laws are lax. That's the big issue, changing that. And what my frustration is the backbone of American business is small business, mom and pop business. They can't afford it. They've been hit very, very hard. The frustrating part is some of these corporations, and I'll be honest with you, some of them tell their managers and store employees, don't call law enforcement, call us first. So by the time they call corporate and get permission to call us, it's too late. So a lot of them are doing a good job in helping us fight the fight, but some aren't doing that, and shame on them. They're more worried about their image than doing what's right for the community. And think about Prop 36. It passed by 70% in California, 70% in San Francisco, 70% in LA. Why? Because people are fed up. This should be a wake-up call for our elected politicians. Things have to change. It is not okay. When people see it and don't feel safe, it's visceral. They feel it and they see it day in and day out. They're tired of it. This is a start. What I also like, if you have an addiction problem, this gets you help. That's so important. And just like homelessness, sometimes you have to force people to get help that want it. And addiction is the hardest thing to kick. But as we're going to see, and as we've seen the last year in these issues, in dealing with this on the Retail Theft Crime Task Force, a lot of folks are doing it because, hey, there's no accountability. I'm not going to get in trouble. That's why I'm doing it. So this is a change. It's a start. The people voted for this. The people own this. So we're excited about it, but it's a balanced measure approach. And that's the most important thing. If people need help, we're going to get them help. But if you're out there stealing because you can, we're going to deal with you. So I'm looking forward to the partnership with the district attorney's office and law enforcement as a whole. We're excited about it because for so long our hands were tied. And now we can do what's right and really help our businesses, and especially the small businesses. Those are so important, and they far outnumber the corporate businesses. Yesterday, my deputies were in this area, in this complex, and made 10 arrests out of one store. That's a lot of money. You pay it, I pay it in higher prices. So hopefully this thing's coming to an end. I'm excited. The public, thank you, thank you, thank you. You made a big difference. And I'll turn it back over to our district attorney.
So with that, I do want to turn it over for questions that you may have, anything in regards to the implementation, in regards to specific in the laws, and I'll open up for questions for the three of us here. Questions? Yes. Yes, so what we did at the DA's office is we have convened, I've designated a point person in my office to run point of Proposition 36 in regards to its implementation. What we also did was we are working with other regional district attorneys as well to come up with parameters and protocols. We've also reached out and we are working with the Sheriff's Department, with the Police Department, with all the local agencies here in Sacramento and regionally. And in fact, on January the 15th, we will be having a press event at the Rayleighs at Fair Oaks and Howe, followed by a regional conference, not only with law enforcement, with business leaders and our partners from the county, particularly behavioral health, because as Sheriff Jim Cooper and Supervisor Desmond talked about, there's a treatment component here. This isn't about mass incarceration. It's about mass treatment for those that want and need the treatment when it comes to homelessness, fentanyl addiction, but it also has accountability when it comes to retail theft. So we are creating a regional coalition to deal with it. Thank you. Next question? Yes. You know, that's a great question. I'm going to turn that over to Sheriff Jim Cooper, who, besides being in law enforcement, was also a legislator and an assembly member representing us.
So it's really about title in some area, and that's the issue. Obviously, Prop 47 was Safe Streets and Schools Initiative. It had nothing to do with that whatsoever. So that's the big issue, and it's hard for the public to discern these initiatives and what's right and what works. And what's interesting, Prop 47 has been around 10 years, and every year people tried to run bills to change some of the issues and couldn't get it changed, including myself. But this year in this session, you had over 20 bills introduced that were given hearings on theft. The reason why it got so bad, and the public was fed up. That's the only reason. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. And that's why we're here. And even the effort, the campaign effort for Prop 36, it wasn't that robust. You had 5 billionaires put in over $7.5 million in the No on 36 campaign. The 36 campaign didn't have a lot of money, but it was the public groundswell support that did that. And that was really the big issue. So I really hope my former colleagues in the legislature take notice that the public is fed up with crime. They want to change. It's not okay. And like I said, I keep going back. Why 20 bills this year versus the last 9 years? Because it's that bad. And let's not lose effect on that. So hopefully it changes for the better.
The campaign for Proposition 36 really started at the grassroots level, and I want to introduce, is Karen here? Karen Corbs? And Chris. I want to introduce two ladies here, if Chris is here as well. Both of these individuals were very instrumental here in the Sacramento region in gathering signatures. We gathered nearly 900,000 signatures in order to get it on the ballot. That was a monumental task to do so. And these two ladies here were very instrumental. I want to thank them, and I want to thank all the other volunteers and people who did so. This was a grassroots really campaign to get it across the finish line. It was very important to do so. But we want to make sure that we approach the implementation in a measured, fair manner. This isn't about locking up people that have mental health and substance abuse issues. This is about getting them treatment and having the tools to encourage them and requires them to get the treatment they need. And it's also about, and we have representatives from small businesses here, about making sure that they have a lifeline to go after those that are targeting and preying upon them. Next question? Yes.
What sort of day-to-day changes can shoppers expect to see under this new proposition?
So to answer that question, I'm going to turn it back over to Sheriff Cooper in terms of the enforcement side, and then I'll talk about the prosecution side. And then I'm going to ask Supervisor Desmond to talk about the mental health side.
So we've got multiple operations going on through our POP and HOT team, patrol, special operations. There are some days we'll put 70 officers out on a retail theft operation. That's bigger than most police departments in the Sacramento region. So we're committed to it. The state funded us, which helps tremendously, and to really work on it and show folks we're out there and make people feel safe. It's good for business, it's good for the community, so it's really a team effort, and as I said, it involves the DA's office and also our Board of Supervisors.
You know, let me just show you, for example, the team that we've assembled. So Adrian McMillan here is part of our organized retail theft unit. Brett Wasley, who is a supervisor in the office, is also running point on Proposition 36. We have 180 prosecutors in the office, and we are moving towards the implementation. In regards to fentanyl, we have a narcotic team run by Supervisor Leland Washington here. And so we, in terms of the litigation of it, we are developing protocols on really how to prosecute these cases, but in addition to working with county behavioral health, working with the courts to make sure that people are being held accountable. So last year, we filed over 10,000 misdemeanor cases in Sacramento County. We'll continue to be aggressive in doing so. We have 14 different collaborative courts where we try to get people into treatment, but at the same time, we will continue to hold people accountable. And we will marshal the resources of those 180 prosecutors to make sure that you are and that you feel safe. And with that, I'll turn it over from a behavioral health aspect with our supervisor, Rich Desmond.
Thank you. And so I've had several discussions already with District Attorney Tin Ho about the implementation and what is the county's role. And he just alluded to the drug courts. That's usually where people who end up getting arrested, they get an option. You can serve time in jail, or you can go into a treatment program and then get the arrest, get the conviction expunged. What we saw when Prop 47 passed was what drug court participation went down by 70%. So because people started realizing, hey, I can either I'm going to get cited, or if I do get arrested, it's going to be for a very short stay. So we no longer had this leverage over people to really make it better for them to get into a treatment program. So as part of the implementation, we need to look at making sure that there are enough programs, enough resources for people to go into those diversionary programs, court treatment programs, but also from a county perspective. My hope, and I think this is what's going to happen, is you're going to see a big deterrent impact from Prop 36. A lot of folks are not going to be, they're going to be out on the streets making this calculation. Okay, I know now that if I get arrested, I could potentially be arrested and face serious jail time. So I am going to take an offer of help from the county, from our social workers, from our navigators who are out there. So from the Board of Supervisors perspective, we have to keep doing what we've been doing for the last few years, investing in more programs, outpatient, inpatient treatment programs for people suffering from mental illness and addiction. The good news is there's more states, more resources at the state level, but we will have to bring more of that online, and that will be part of the discussion with the implementation of Prop 36 here locally.
Next question. Yes.
I have a question related to the implementation for retail theft. How will law enforcement be able to prove the prior convictions while in the field? And also, do we have enough space in our jails for
So we do have the space, and obviously you can run a person's history, and once you contact him and make the arrest, and we'll find out and determine that, and then file the appropriate charges on them.
So one of the things that if you use that card with the QR code, it'll take you to a landing page on the Sacramento DA's website. And on that website, there's actually an entire PowerPoint and webinar that talks about the intricacies of Proposition 36 and also some of the new legislative package and bills, how they relate to each other. And that presentation is for law enforcement, but it's also for the public to view so that you have a full understanding of Proposition 36. And in terms of the implementation, we will be most definitely looking at those cases and implementing it. You had a question? You know, we have heard a lot of criticism in regards to Proposition 36 that it's too expensive, it's too costly. What I say to that is, what is the cost to a business that has to shut down because of retail theft? What is the cost to a mother who's lost their child to fentanyl poisoning? What is the cost to a community in terms of dealing with the unhoused crisis? What is the cost to a person who dies on the streets because of homelessness and drug addiction? When we look at costs, we really need to examine that as well. Now, in regards to the capacity for treatment, in Sacramento County, we have 14 different collaborative courts. We have different treatment programs, both in and out of custody. And when we talk about funding and we talk about the resources, recently the voters of the state of California last year passed Proposition 1, creating additional mental health beds. And when you look at it, 8 out of 10 people that are chronically homeless for more than a year, suffer from mental health and drug addiction. And Sheriff Jim Cooper and his homeless outreach team contacted 600 people in the early part of last year to offer services and shelter. And of those 600 people, only 7 accepted services and sheltered. And so what we really need to look at is a tool and a means to encourage people to accept the treatment they need. And frankly, we don't have that until Proposition 36 came along and gave us those tools so that we can use it in a compassionate manner. And we do have the capacity, we do have the tools, we do have the means to do so, and we will move forward on this. Next question. Yes.
expectation on the part of the retailer
I'll turn that over to the other speakers here before I comment on that.
That's an interesting part about it. And you think about this with the retailers, and they suffered a lot, but you hear that losses in the billions, we're closing stores, and yet they didn't do a lot to help Prop 36 to get the message out there. I'll say that honestly with that. So I would hope there's going to be changes with that. It's better for the public to come in, so it makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, these are national corporations, not headquartered here in California, that make those decisions, even as far as not being able to call law enforcement. So that's the conundrum we're in. So I'm hopefully optimistic that things start to change. It needs to change. But we've got to work together, and not calling law enforcement does not help.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I won't add to what the sheriff mentioned, but I hope also that these larger stores will start unlocking products and getting us back to the situation where someone could walk into a drugstore and actually pick up a product and read the label, understand what it is. And I'm also glad you mentioned it, because I think something that we haven't mentioned today is the impact, the disparate impact retail theft has on disadvantaged communities. We're here in How About Arden. This is a relatively affluent neighborhood here. I represent a very diverse district. You go up north from here into Foothill Farms and North Highlands. You go into those areas, they are hit much harder by retail theft, and virtually everything is locked up in those stores. So it is a pretty sad state of affairs in the state of California, certainly in this community, where someone, if you live in a poor community, you're not going to be able to pick up a bottle of cold medicine to read what is in it. You will have to look at everything from behind plexiglass and call someone from the store to open it up for you. So I hope that changes dramatically, because it really is impacting the people in these most under-resourced communities more than anyone else.
I want to focus on Main Street and not Wall Street for a moment. We have someone here, Rocky, who represents the Convenience Store Association, APCA. And I was talking to one of their members last year, and he told me that 6 out of 10 people walking to his store in South Sacramento was committing theft. They were committing theft. How do you survive when 6 out of 10 people are committing theft in your store? And so let's talk about those small businesses on Main Street, because that's the vast majority of our economy. The vast majority of people, and many of them are from disenfranchised community. Many of them are immigrants. And so Supervisor Desmond talked about where are most of the stores located that are shutting down. The pharmacies, the grocery stores. Where are most of the stores where things are locked up? It's in black and brown communities, the most disenfranchised communities. And so Proposition 36 is a tool to help us make sure that justice and safety isn't just the providence of somebody living in a gated community. That justice and safety isn't just the right of the rich and the powerful, but also the everyday person. And let's not forget that. And that's what Proposition does. It gives us those tools in a measured, appropriate way. Any other questions? Yes.
That's a great question. I think number one, accountability, because it's that simplistic. Because these folks knew there was no accountability, I would not get in trouble. So I think as time goes on and people start getting arrested, I think you'll see some folks that were, figuring, hey, it was a calculation. Will I get in trouble or not? And they decided to do that. So I think some folks are going to gravitate away from that. We have the ability to do it, and that's really the big thing, because we were frustrated. Think about this. Out of those 1,000 people we arrested, over 800 got citations. 800. they're not going to serve jail time. They're going to fail to appear. That is not an issue. So that really changes the narrative. And I think with the DAs, the threat of prosecution, now it's going to be real. I think it's a combination of things, not just one thing, that makes it better. And I don't want to make it simplistic, but I think the combination of everything really changes the landscape. And as Tin Ho said, it's about people's lives and how they feel. That's the most important thing. And we can do it. We have the tools now.
We didn't get here overnight. And so this is going to be solved at a snap of a finger by turning on the light. Like an aircraft carrier, it takes time to turn this around. And Prop 36 is not a panacea for all things and all ill things in our society, but it gives us the tools. It gives us the tool, number one, to go after the repeated thieves. It gives us the tools to go after the peddlers of poison that is feeding into the fentanyl fatalities. And it gives us the tools to require treatment to get people off the streets. It gives us the tools to do more so that we can all be safe. Any other questions? Yes?
Have they thought about funding from businesses to donate to this cause to help mitigate the issue during all this?
You know, really, when it talks about the funding, we have infrastructure in place already. Look, we always need and want more funding to make sure that we hold people accountable, more funding for treatment, more funding for accountability. At the end of the day, we have an infrastructure in place already to do these things. Do we want more funding? Absolutely. Is that funding going to come? Probably not. But we have the resources that we need to make a difference. But we do need more resources. We do need more funding in order to really further our efforts at making sure the community is safe. And one of the things that one of the people asked in regards to reporting crimes, on this website, what it does is it has a link. So if you happen to be in the unincorporated part of the county, if you happen to be in Sacramento, the city of Sacramento and Elk Grove or Rancho, you can hit a link and it will take you to a website on that department's page where you can report the crime. And it has a checklist for retailers and businesses to report the crime. So there are plenty of tools on here for businesses and retailers to report crime. There's also tools on here in regards to fentanyl awareness as well. And so with that, I want to turn it over for any final questions that you may have. Because one thing I will say is this. Am I optimistic? Absolutely. I'm optimistic that we're going to turn this around. I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to make a difference. I'm optimistic that we will be able to make our community safer. Yes.
I think reporting crime is so important. And during this whole Prop 36 campaign, and for the last 10 years, the opponents kept saying, crime is down, crime is down. The politicians said crime is down. Crime was underreported, and that was the issue. That's always been the issue. So the more we report crime, the better, because data is power. Having that data, that knowledge, and really talking about that, talking about the arrest, how many were homeless, how many just got citations, how many homeless didn't want help. Data is king in this area, so it's important. I can't express enough how important it is to report it. Nothing is insignificant, nothing's trivial. So the data helps us in addressing the issues.
One last question.
So we're actually working hand in hand with retailers right now to set up programs and get it done. Our hot team and pop team are out here dedicated to this, to deal with these issues. So we're doing a good job. They've been very cooperative, but we need more cooperation because the more they call us, the more they report. It's really a hand-in-hand thing. Without them, we can't resolve it. So we need their help. And that's my plea to the big box retailers to help us.
So we've worked with our organized retail theft unit, with Old Navy, with Walmart, with the Broadway Improvement District, and even here in How About Arden, to almost provide us with a top 10 list of their offenders. And with that top 10 list of offenders, we are able, in partnership with the business and law enforcement, to go after those individuals that are creating particular havoc in the community. So those are some of the programs that we're working on, but this is one step in a long journey to turning things around in our communities to make it safer for all of us. And Proposition 36 does just that. So with that, thank you so much for attending, and we'll be around for further interviews one-on-one if you need so. Thank you so much.